All right, let's jump right in. Today we're digging into a really fascinating and, deeply personal blueprint. It's a plan for creating a living, interactive memory of a person, one that's preserved in silicone.
You know, it's a question we've been asking for, well, forever. But today, it's not just for philosophy class or a sci-fi movie anymore. With AI getting so advanced, this is becoming a very real, technical, and frankly, ethical puzzle. So, can we do it? And maybe the more important question is, should we?
First things first, we've got to talk about the sci-fi in the room. This is not about digital ghosts or uploading your consciousness like you see in the movies. The blueprint we're looking at today asks us to put all those fantasies aside for a reality that's a lot more grounded and honestly, a lot more honest.
So this whole idea of extending our memory with machines, it's not new at all. It goes way back to 1945 with the Memex concept. And more recently, you had projects like Microsoft's My Life Bits, which tried to digitize a person's entire life. But the real lesson, the big one, came in 2004 with DARPA's LifeLog. It got canceled because of massive privacy concerns, and that sent a really clear message. You can't just capture everything without explicit, ironclad consent. It's just not going to fly.
And that's what brings us to the approach we're talking about today. It's one that learned directly from all those ethical bumps in the road. This isn't about capturing everything. It's about creating an echo that's based on solid evidence, a totally new and, like we said, more honest blueprint for our digital memories.
Okay, so here's the absolute key distinction we need to make. On one hand, you've got that sci-fi dream of artificial immortality, but on the other, you have the goal of this blueprint, which is called honest continuity. See the difference? It's not trying to recreate a person. It's about building an interactive archive of their voice, their stories, and their way of thinking, with every single piece of it grounded in real, verifiable evidence.
So what is this digital self exactly? Well, the source is super specific about it. It's a simulation, and it runs on 3 core rules. Number 1, it only speaks if it has the evidence to back it up. 2, if it doesn't know, it just says so. No guessing, no speculating. And 3, it's always upfront that it's a simulation. That transparency, it's everything.
The best way to think about how this thing works is with this analogy right here. It's more librarian than oracle. It's not here to tell you the future or invent some new profound wisdom. Nope, it's just an incredibly skilled librarian for a person's life, and its only job is to find the right piece of information in the archives and present it to you clearly. That's it.
Okay, so we get the what and the why, but how does this thing actually work? Well, the blueprint lays out a really clear 3-phase process.
It all builds in 3 stages. First up is capture. You do these structured life review interviews and gather up digital stuff like emails and documents. Then step 2 is index. You organize all that evidence into a searchable archive, and every single piece gets tagged. And finally, generate. An AI goes in, retrieves the relevant evidence, and then puts together an answer in that person's unique style, and get this, it even cites its sources.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question, right? A technical process is one thing, but does the final product actually sound and feel like the person it's supposed to be? The research behind this whole blueprint put that to the test. They looked at everything: accuracy, emotional tone, and whether it could stay consistent over time.
And the results, they were pretty striking. The system got a high persona alignment score. What that means is, in blind tests, where people who actually knew the person were shown 2 different responses, they consistently picked the AI's answer, thinking it was written by the real human.
So why did it work so well? How did it fool people? Well, this quote from one of the raters really gets to the heart of it. It wasn't just about getting the facts right. The system nailed it because it captured the tiny nuances of style. Using specific details, the rhythm and cadence of the sentences, it learned how the person talked, not just what they knew. Now, something this personal, you can't even begin to talk about it without a rock-solid ethical foundation. Seriously, the tech just doesn't work without safety being built in from the ground up. So let's look at the rules designed to protect everyone involved. This governance playbook is really thorough. It's built on a few non-negotiable rules. First, consent has to be explicit, in writing, and you have to be able to take it back. And a trusted steward, a real person, is put in charge. For safety, the system has to say it's a simulation every single time, and it has to refuse to answer unsafe questions. And for control, there's a special architecture to prevent the identity from changing over time, and the steward, well, they always have access to a kill switch, the ultimate fail-safe.
Let's dig into that identity drift for a second, because it's a huge concern, right? How do you make sure the digital self doesn't slowly morph into something the person never was? Well, this was a core piece of the design from day one.
The solution is actually this really clever 2-part system.
You have the persona index, that's the core identity, the memories, values, communication style, that gets frozen, it's read-only. But then you have a separate world index, and that can be updated with new public fact. So this lets the echo know about what's happening in the world today without ever changing the fundamental character of the person. Pretty smart.
So, when you pull it all together, you see we've come full circle. This was never about some tech trick to achieve immortality. It's about a thoughtful, carefully designed tool for legacy and for memory.
And you know, this quote from the source manuscript just nails it. The whole goal is honest continuity. What you get is a voice that is accountable to the evidence of a person's life, accountable to their explicit consent, and accountable to the care of the people they left behind.
At the end of the day, what's the point of all this? This blueprint is for creating a resource that can help a family remember, help a community learn, and preserve the invaluable stories, values, and wisdom of a life for generations who maybe never got the chance to meet them in person.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. It's one thing to analyze this as a concept, but it's another thing entirely to make it personal. So, if you were to create an echo based on the evidence of your life, what stories, what values, what part of your voice would you want it to carry forward? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.